We love mailbag questions, so let's get through two of them, and then you have a little surprise for me, which I'm really excited about. So get started right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Rays your very first listen every day. Be sure you check us out on YouTube and all podcasting platforms as well. Follow our social media accounts, Locked On Rays on Twitter and Instagram, and you can email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Speaking of emailing us, we have a couple great mailbag questions here. This one from Jeff in Dunedin. He says, any chance of these moves happening for next year? First base, Edwin Rios. Third base, Evan Longoria. Trade Randy Arozarena. Sign Brandon Drury. Add Michael Chavis. And or add a veteran third starter. So what I gather from Jeff's question there is not all of those things coming true, but one or more of those things coming true for the Rays.
Okay. Good, because I had read it like as if all of them would be happening, and I'd be like, wow, that's a hefty.
Let's
to-do list.
reframe it. Let's reframe it this way. Out of everything that Jeff mentioned there, the Rays get Edwin Rios or Evan Longoria or trade Randy or sign Brandon Drury or add Michael Chavis or add a veteran third starter. Out of all those scenarios, which of those do you consider to be the most likely for the Rays?
I think it's hands down the veteran starter. I think that's for
Okay.
sure going to happen. I would be very surprised. I would flip it. I would be very surprised if it didn't happen. If they didn't go ahead and get a Charlie Morton type guy, a Rich Hill, Michael Wacha, Corey Kluber type guy, that would be very surprising to me for them to just go. Because when you look at the rotation's looking pretty nice. You know, with McClanahan and Glass now, Springs, Rasmussen, it's really great. It's top heavy. But let's remember, just like we've talked about in previous player reviews, how many innings can you expect from Tyler Glasnow coming back from injury? How many innings can you expect from a Jeffrey Springs, who just basically doubled at anything that he had ever done in professional ball? Rasmussen also, that was his first year as a starter. Do you expect him to keep growing? McClanahan, didn't he show fatigue? How many innings do you expect out of him? So it's just like a foregone conclusion that you need a guy, whoever that guy is, a veteran that could possibly post for 120, 130 innings. Doesn't have to be, shiny ERA. It can just be a 450 if you want, ERA kind of guy, a fifth starter, nothing fancy. I know people would hate to get a Michael Wacha from 2021 back.
Right.
But I could see that happening.
And also the loss of Ryan Yarbrough and the innings, whether good or bad, that he ate up, that is something that has to be filled. And this has been an ongoing theme for the Rays over the last several years of adding some sort of veteran presence in the starting rotation, be it Charlie Morton, be it Michael Wacha, Rich Hill, Chris Archer, whether it works out or not, Corey Kluber. So it seems like that's something that they've really targeted. Now, my secondary question to you would be, do you have a name or a roundup of names in mind? I mean, there's Wade Miley, there's Zach Eflin, there's Rich Hill, Stripling, Greinke, Wacha, Heaney, Syndergaard, Mike Minor, Jordan Lyle, Drew Smiley, Matthew Boyd, Joe Ross. I mean, that's just kind of running up and down the kind of the midpoint of guys that compiled between a 1.5 to 3.5 WAR. Look, they're not going out and getting Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon or anything like that. So we have to also, again, that maybe 1 year guy for $8 to $10, $11 million.
Andrew Heaney had a really nice backup season, or comeback season rather, or whatever you want to call it, season for 2022 after really struggling mightily in 2021. So maybe the Dodgers figured out something that the Rays could also employ, or that
Right.
Andrew now knows what to do or what not to do. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
I'm always going to want characters in the clubhouse. I think Zach Greinke is a tremendous character. He would have
Yeah.
so much to offer a Glass now, a McClanahan, just like, this is how you do it. This is how I've done it. And he wouldn't even say it. He would just show them. It would be a show and tell. It would be kind of like a creative writing class where the teacher tells you, don't tell me, show me,
Hmm.
when you're writing. That's exactly, I think, how Zach operates in the clubhouse. He just does it, and then they all drink it in. I think that would be really,
Right.
really cool. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's had really good starts in Tropicana Field, but that might just be my mind playing tricks on me. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. So maybe that could be something
Yeah.
that would be intriguing for him to kind of go to a potential playoff team rather than a
Right.
potential seller team in the
And I
Kansas City
believe
Royals if
he's
he's back.
a Central Florida, Orlando area native, so it could also make sense in that regard if he still has a habitat in the area or family that lives in the area too. So it could make it that much easier of a decision. Now, going back to Jeff's comment and or rundowns there, out of all those potential moves, which is the most likely? Okay, we have that out of the way. Which do you think would be the least likely? Whether it's adding Edwin Rios for first base, adding Longo for third, trading Randy, signing Brandon Drury, or Michael Chavis?
That's a tough one, because the least likely I can also put it into, because I hate it the most.
Right.
Um, like, do not sign Michael Chavis. Do not do this. He's a
Yeah.
career
If you're
92
going to go
WRC
through that,
plus
you might
guy.
as well have just kept G-Man Choi. Like, if that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, he is just not a player that I would want to be wearing a Rays uniform, unless the Rays were, I don't know, if it was 2005 and we're just
Right.
not committing to winning. I'm not. Michael Chavis is out. Like, I don't want that. But besides, like, he played 129 games for the Pirates. There's not a guy that would play 129 games with those numbers that he put up with the Rays. Like, there's just that's
Well,
just
I,
not
I
something.
think the thing for the Pirates is they added G-Man Choi to help replace or take away production from Michael Chavis. Like, that would have been the move there.
So yeah,
So,
that's the one I'm not sold on whatsoever, Jeff. And I've talked about this one before. The trade Randy. I mean, I understand the Rays are going to always listen to deals. Like, we've talked about the untouchables that the Rays have, and how it's not 10 players, people. It's about, like,
mhm,
maximum three. Maximum three.
yeah,
Everybody else, they can listen on offers. I don't believe Randy is an untouchable. I think if the right package is presented to them, they will pull the trigger. But the issue with Randy is he was your second best productive hitter last year. So if he's gone, again, where are you getting the production from? And don't tell me, like, oh well, the conglomeration of other players. Yada. We saw that play out in 2022. People, let's not have amnesia here. That's exactly what
right,
happened with Austin Meadows. Austin Meadows is gone, and then we were said, oh well, the young guys are going to step up in a conglomeration, and then they're going to put some pop, and they're going to be good offensively. That didn't happen. Once you lose that offensive production, where is it coming from? So trading Randy, unless you're getting another type of production like that right away in a 1-for-1 type deal, which is really never really seen in baseball nowadays. The 1-for-1, you have a need, I have a need, let's trade for it. I think actually just
yeah,
happened with the Jays and the Mariners with Teoscar Hernandez and a reliever. I'm blanking on his name, but the Jays need bullpen help. The
Yeah.
Mariners wanted some outfield thump. Boom, that's a 1-for-1 need trade. Awesome, good for them. I don't think the Rays would do a 1-for-1 trade for Randy. They would do a package, and then again, you're stuck in the same place where are we getting the offense from?
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting there. And I guess if you're a Rays fan, I'm glad you mentioned the Teoscar Hernandez, one less power bat that the Rays pitch has to deal with that Blue Jays lineup. I will say, and we'll move on here, but again, it's a name that seems to have continuously popped up among Rays fans. We know about the Evan Longoria thing, but Brandon Drury, and I know he doesn't necessarily bring all the splash and pizzazz of some of the other free agents or guys that could be made available, but I'm getting some, and it's not a fair comparison to say he's the next Jose Bautista, but a guy who is a little bit of a late bloomer in a sense of okay, he finally it takes him till he's 29, 30 years old till he fits in and settles in. And you had the whole COVID-19 pandemic. He's moved around from place to place. So maybe it was just some guys need a little bit more time to marinate than others. Not to say that, he's going to light the world on fire, but I could see him, if this was something that the Rays were interested in, of if he posts 140, 145 games, that he'll give you 20 to 24 home runs, something along those lines. So that's I'll be very interested to see how his career arc continues going forward with that. So now we have another mailbag question, but before we get to that, Ulises, we have to tell the audience about SimpliSafe.
Well, if you've thought about securing your home with home security, but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up right now because Locked On Race listeners can order the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Okay. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify that the threat is real so you can get priority police response. So do not miss your chance to save big on the only security system that we would recommend. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb. Again, this is their biggest discount of the year. So do not wait. That's 50% off at simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb.
All right, this next question is from Brian Stark, who is very prodigious with reaching out to us. And his question is very, very simple and concise. Free agent targets ? And he lists a list of names on offense and list a list of names on the pitching side of things as well. So we'll run through them here. Josh Bell, Trey Mancini, Josh Harrison, Jonathan VR, Andrew Benintendi, Robbie Grossman, Mitch Haniger, Jock Peterson, Tyler Anderson, Danny Duffy, Michael Lorenzen, David Price, Trevor Williams. Ulises, out of those names, I guess if you want to focus on the offensive side of things and then the pitching side of things, any of those tickle your fancy or you think have a legit chance of being in a Rays uniform in 2023?
I think as all baseball fans have a soft spot for this guy, I do as well. Trey Mancini, his story is one that I really, I mean, it's amazing what he has gone through. He's coming off, I think, what some people might say a so-so year. But if you look at the splits between what he did in Baltimore and then what he did with Houston, it's very intriguing because he had a 77 WRC plus with the Orioles, and the slash line wasn't that pretty. But with the Orioles, prior to the trade, he had a 116 WRC plus. So that's more than what 33, almost 50 points
Right.
difference. So that's the change in scenery, the not being able to kind of get a rapport with people and a new clubhouse, all of the things that entail being a human being as well, and changing scenery and not having your own home. Those things actually affect you. If if I have to bet Rays for a 2-year kind of a Charlie Morton-esque deal, which is what I've wanted. I've looked for. If Charlie Morton is given a 15-year per year for 2 years, and that next year that first year with the Rays, he was a third place finisher for the American League Cy Young. Can't
Right.
we do that with the offensive part of the team, of the construction? Can you get a guy that could potentially be a top 10 MVP finisher in that same monetary range? And I think Trey Mancini could put up those numbers. And again, he does fill a need that the Rays do want. He has pop. He has a career 108 WRC plus, 265 batting average, 457 slug. Before the trade, again, he had a 751 OPS with the Orioles. So if there's one guy that I could see the price being kind of down because of what happened in Houston and not the longevity of years for him, and matches what the Rays are looking for, a first baseman, DH guy, corner outfield type of guy, I think Trey Mancini could be the answer.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the Rays may look at and target as a guy who has shown it previously in his career, but for one reason or another has, didn't end the 2022 season as hot as they should have or were expected to. So being able to get a little bit of a bargain and a bounce back type of player or scenario. I know that the Rays have been rumored or tied or connected with Dominic Smith. That's another example of a player like that. Or, a guy that that Brian Stark mentioned here that I would absolutely love to see in a Rays uniform is Josh Bell. He did not do well when he was in a Padres uniform, but every experience before that has gone pretty swimmingly for him. And you talk about a primo professional hitter from both sides of the plate that doesn't strike out that much. And yeah, you'd probably expect a little bit more power for a guy his size. Still, I absolutely love what he brings and could bring to the table. I guess I'm a little bit worried about his size and how that wears on his body as he slips into his 50s, into his 30s. But Trey Mancini, no, I think that would be a real fun get. Now, let me add a little bit of a twist to that. Would you rather the Rays go out this offseason and sign Trey Mancini or Evan Longoria?
Interesting. I think if you're just talking about pure production, I think Trey Mancini would be the answer.
Right.
But if you are looking at it more of a marketing campaign and you want to tug at people's heartstrings and you want to get some billboards up and more butts in the seats and all of that, and fun little clips you can do with social media, then it would be Evan Longoria.
Right, certainly. And I don't disagree with that. And one thing that also works in Trey Mancini's favor, yes, he did have his best offensive time with the Astros, but hey, he won a ring and he experienced what it means to be on a winning team and going through the postseason and the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs and what it actually takes and what has to happen in the clubhouse and the front office and with the coaching staff to be able to make it to the pinnacle there. So I think that's something that adds to a lot as far as his cachet, whereas let's be honest, when he was playing with the Orioles, he didn't know what it was like to play on a winning team. So now he does have that experience under his belt, which can count for a lot. Additionally, playing for the Orioles the last half decade or a little bit longer than that, he knows what it's like to face all the AL East teams and all the AL East ballparks. And I think that counts for something and means something if he played for the Rays. It's not like he's going to get blindsided in playing in Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park or playing in the Trop or playing where the Blue Jays play, whatever it may be.
Yeah, which I think is a huge plus because those are environments that cannot be recreated. They can't be recreated by, playing at, Marlin Stadium or I don't know, Pittsburgh Pirates, like the
Right.
PNC Park. It's not the same. And besides, he was in a team that swept the Yankees when they were at their most feverish and loudest this year in that playoff series. I know people that might not like Trey Mancini, which I don't know why, but they would say, "Oh, well, he really struggled in the playoffs." Okay, but did you see his tremendous snag at
Yeah.
first base? Like the guy didn't let the 0 for 17 eat him up in the biggest stage of his career as a first baseman. That tells me something. That tells me something, and
Yes.
it's a good thing. So I would be okay with not okay. I would be really happy if that were to happen, where Trey Mancini does don a Rays uniform.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get all the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football, basketball, soccer, esports, and more. BetOnline.net has it covered. It is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. You should know that by now. So head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, Ulises, we got through those two mailbag questions from great listeners out there, and we have a little bit of time here, so I just wanted to bring something to your attention and throw it out, and this may be a future episode throughout the course of the offseason, but I heard and saw and read where the 2023 Hall of Fame ballot is out, and there's a lot of new names on the ballot list. So I'm going to run through them real quickly and without doing any research or background information. After I read all these names, I want you to tell me whether any of these players will eventually be Hall of Famers, be inducted into the Hall of Fame, or if none of them will be inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point. So the newbies to the ballot are Bronson Arroyo, Red's great, Carlos Beltran, Matt Cain, R.A. Dickey, Jacoby Ellsbury, Andre Ethier, J.J. Hardy, John Lackey, Mike Napoli, Johnny Peralta, Francisco K-Rod Rodriguez, Houston Street, Jared Weaver, and Jason Worth. I don't know. Did I mention Carlos Beltran already? I wanted to throw him
I think
out there
third in
too.
the list.
Okay.
Or first.
So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 first year on the ballot dudes. Any of those guys ring the bell as far as, yeah, this guy's eventually going to be inducted into the HOF?
I think two of those.
Arroyo. Yeah, go ahead.
I think two of those guys definitely will.
Okay.
I think people are going to point out to the cheating scandal for Carlos Beltran for the first 7 years, but he's going to get in. I think people are going to just kind of say, hey, like that was 1 year of his playing career. Everything else is shiny. Are we going to dock him for that? Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong on this, and maybe the writers are just like, nope, that's just the same as steroids. I don't know, but I do think that they will kind of have the Kevin Weiss approach, which you've mentioned for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, which is let him sweat. You cheated. Let Barry sweat. Let Roger sweat, and then on the 10th year, all right, here you go. You got it in. So I think maybe that's what happens with Carlos Beltran.
Fair. And let's also note that Carlos Beltran, 70.1 career WAR, 435 homers, 9-time All-Star Rookie of the Year, and of course the 2017 World Series champion. If you want to list an asterisk on that, you certainly can. And then the other name, I think I know where you're going on this other name, but who is it? I assume it's not John Lackey.
It's not the best baseball gif ever, which is John Lackey saying blank and then saying gosh darn in lettering.
Yes.
Have you seen that gif? It's the best.
I believe I have, yes.
there's no, I could watch that GIF 100 times in a row, and I will laugh wholeheartedly with my belly aching every time I watch that GIF. That GIF it's just, it hits the spot.
Right.
If you do think that you know who I'm going for, I want you to tell me why you think I would pick that particular player.
I think you would pick this particular player because, well, he gets the Venezuelan bump and the Caracas bump as well. But not just that. I mean, that counts for a little something. But I think the fact that fourth all time in career saves adds to that as well, behind just Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, and Lee Smith.
Yeah, 6-time All-Star. I literally know that 6-time All-Star, and he does have, I believe it was in 2008 or 2009. That I don't know for sure, but I think it was 2008. I'm gonna say, where he did the single save record at the time. So that's pretty impressive.
Right.
I think those accolades speak for themselves. I think people are going to not like the fact that he was kind of let go of the closer role as he aged and kind of become a setup man. Sometimes he would close, sometimes not. Guys above him on that list were always, the closer. I mean, Mariano didn't, set up anybody else, or Trevor Hoffman didn't set up for anybody else. I don't think Lee Smith did that either.
Right.
So maybe they'll give him a knock. And if people are just war aficionados, then they're not going to like that. He's a reliever that scratches around 30, I'm guessing. So
Yeah,
32.
24, which again is
Oh,
not fair at all to relievers. I mean,
yeah.
we might as well throw that out the window.
Yeah. So those are my two picks. Is there anybody that maybe I missed in your perspective?
No, I think that just about covers it. I think there's a lot of Hall of Good, Hall of Very Good, but not any other Hall of Famers in that regard. I don't even think it's close. I don't think there's anybody else that really even scratches the surface out of those names that we listed. I mean,
I agree.
I haven't looked at this very closely, but I don't know if anybody else on that list, again, using WAR as the metric here, that cracks 30, 35 WAR.
Yeah.
So, there it is. Yeah. And if you have a chance, look at the numbers for yourselves. If you think there is a third Hall of Famer out of those newbies, we'd definitely love to hear your perspective and insight on that for sure. But I think that eventually, yes, Carlos Beltran, and eventually Francisco Rodriguez will make it into the Hall. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your very first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On Sports Today podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.